Don't forget to click that subscribe and bell icon to receive a notification each time I upload a new video. Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So it's Tuesday and I'm sat at my desk. I've got a project that I want to do today which could have fitted in to my 7 days of Halloween series. Could have been day 8. I always have more projects on my list than what I've usually got the days for, if you know what I mean. I've actually got, I think it was 9 or 10 different projects that I could do for the 7 days of Halloween. But I choose which ones I want to do depending on how much time I've got and how much work and effort needs to go into the video. So the project, like the last one, which took about 3 hours to do, you have to weigh and balance what you can do in the time allotted with the other stuff that's happening in your life at the same time. So this is going to be one of those projects that I'd kind of put to one side as a standby if I had time to do it. So let me turn over to my overhead camera and show you what I've got. I've also got a drink because I've got a bit of a tickly cough today. That's probably because I've been chopping wood and I've swallowed sawdust. Okay, so the clicking noises in the background, if you can hear them, are Ian working on his computer behind me. So say hello, Ian.
Hello, Ian.
There you go. He may pop across and say hello in a little while. So you may also notice that there's a little character up in the top corner peering down at you. Hello. So I'm trying something new. Whether or not it works or whether or not I carry on doing this next year, who knows, but we have to experiment somewhere. So anyway, so this is the project. So while I was going through some of my stuff, I discovered this journal. It's I think it's 6 by 6.5 inches. He says just under 6 inches that way and 6 inches that way on the cover, which means that the inside kraft pages are about 5.5 if you take out where the rings are, and just under 6 inches in height. And I thought that this would make a really cute journal in which to do my female version of the Rogues Gallery for next year. So this is going to be my heroine's journal, and it's all going to be 6 or thereabout 6 inch by 6 inch kraft cardstock, and there's absolutely tons to go at. So I'm not going to be just limited to one a month. I could do these as many times as I want to, and I could even do it that way. I don't know, I haven't decided yet, but I think I'm going to do it traditionally this way. So I'm going to use this journal possibly for the heroines, but I may even throw in the odd rogue in there as well throughout the year. But this is going to be those kind of little collagey things that I do for the Rogues Journal or the Rogues Galleries. But I don't like this ribbon thing because it's only through the one hole. So I'm going to take it out first of all before I do anything. And I did have some scissors, there you are. So it's just glued down, it's just hot glue. So a little bit of heat would have probably just removed that anyway, but it just was easy just to pick off. So it wasn't a huge job, as you could see. So we've now got the journal. So what I want to do, as you can see, this big pile of stuff here, is I'm hoping that the focus is staying and behaving itself. So this is a resin cast from a silicone mould that was purchased by our friend Karen. Now she brought it over about a week or two ago, and while she was here I cast 2, so that I've got 2 to play with. But one which I want to put on the front of this journal here. I've also got some bones which were part of another, I think it was a Finnabair mould set, again belonging to my friend Karen. I don't own that one, which is not yet anyway. I say yet because there's still time. And I was going to place that top and bottom, and then we've got these 2 smaller ones which I think would look really, really cute down the side. So this journal will be known from here on in as the Book of Bones. But what I've also got is this is a container of all of the resin casts that I've already done. Now in here there's also some steampunky kind of screw heads that I also did, and I want to add some of those in on the project as well. There's all sorts of other stuff. That was one of the bones that I did as a tester, just with gesso, black gesso, and then white gesso over the top. There was also a brown one in here as well, and that was done with brown paint, terracotta paint I think it was, from Deco Art, and again just with white gesso over the top, just as an experiment to see what they would look like. But what I'm looking for is some of the small screw heads. There we go. There's one there, and that's a slot screw head. A couple of different sized cross heads. All sorts of goodies that I've thrown in this tub. Just have to excuse the noise of me searching at the bottom. There's another, there we go, there's another one. Different colour, but it's going to get painted so it doesn't make any difference. There we go, so we've got a variety of different screw heads, which I think is going to work well. Right, so let's put those away now, bring those back in. So what am I going to do? Well, first of all, I'm going to take those off, and I've got some Tim Holtz Ideology collage paper, which is the lace. So, and that's just the right height, look, to cover the entire of that front. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cover both the inside and the outside of the journal, and it's going to be flexible enough to go around the holes, I think. And I'm going to use matte medium, so that's what I'm going to use to start off with. I will be adding paint to it, so let's get, is that the right way up? That's probably the right way up. So we're going to need a fair whack of this, I think, so at least a double length, so that should do about there. Okay, so this is going to be the front cover. So what I'll do is I'll start with the inside, and I'm going to use some Matthew medium, like so, and we'll just slap that down onto the front. I'm going to try not to touch it because this is the stuff that pulls the skin off my fingers, so I should theoretically wear gloves, but I'm going to try not to get any on the paper, because the last thing we want is for all the paper sheets to stick together. Won't necessarily be a disaster, but it'll just make life more difficult later on. There we go. I know there's loads, absolutely loads, so I'll just gather that up and put it to the side. There we go. So let's get the tissue.
Bless you.
Says a voice from the back. Right, so let's just twist that round and then just drop that down. About there. I'm not particularly too bothered if I don't get it exact in the corner. I need to get it as level as I can anyway. I don't mind if there's a few wrinkles in it. Alright, let's grab some of that matte medium and let's just load it up and go to town. So we'll just grab some scissors, just put a few snips in, because it's now wet. It's going to be a complete pain, but hey ho. I did say about not touching it, didn't I? I've just gone and touched it. I'll pay for that later. Knowing me, let's just tuck that in. And I'm not trying to be too exact. Let's see if we just cut that bit there as well. There we go. And then just tuck it around it. That'll do. I can't say I'm really enamoured with this tissue papery stuff from Tim Holtz anyway, which is why I've got a big stash of it and I don't really use it very often. So, right, I'll just give that a quick blast. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so that's dry enough for us to continue on. So I'm just going to flip it over and then pretty much do the same thing at this side. So just add the matte medium on there. Now, if we didn't manage to get it right under that corner there, we can get some on there now. And then as we bring it over, we can smooth it down. There we go. And we've got a bit too much. But worry not, we can sort that out in the wash later. Just add a bit more. So that'll do for the first coat. Okay, so the front and the back cover, because I did that off camera, I didn't really think you'd want to see it happen twice. So as soon as that was finished, I went into the back and did exactly the same thing again. Same process, so nothing different, no nasty surprises. There you go. So now that they're dry, I'm just waiting for them to cool down a little bit. And then I want some white gesso. So I've got some white gesso. Any white gesso will do. I'm just happening to be using the indigo blue Gesso Good in white. This is an older bottle because they've redone the labels now. So I'm just going to pop some of that gesso. Oh, there we go. On a brush. Let's see, do we need a big one? Just a little one will do. That little one will do just nice. I've got some water just off to the side here. My little paint pot and a roll of kitchen towel. And I'm just going to give the front, I'll just concentrate on the front for now, a quick coat of the white gesso, and I'm not going really heavy or really thick, and I'm just going to go between the springs and the beauty about the gesso is you can always add a little bit of water or always just rub a little bit of it off if you think you've gone a bit too heavy, which I will do in a second when I go around the edges. Ian's sneezing like mad down there in the garage, the workshop. I'm just going to grab a wet wipe. Okay, so I'm just going to just gently rub a little bit of that gesso away, just around the edges. All I'm doing is just kind of distressing it a little bit. Just to kind of give you the hint back in that corner on the edges. Once it's dried, it will knock back a bit anyway. So we're going for that kind of grungy, distressed look that we like. Okay, so gesso's now dried, looking kind of lovely and grungy. So it's now time to add on the front piece. Now this time, I used a hot glue gun last time. This time I'm actually going to use the heavy gel medium. So this is the super thick Slap It On, again from Indigo Blue, and I'm going to put plenty on. I'm going to butter it on and then put a dollop in the middle. So we'll go around the edges and put a decent amount on there. Don't mind if some of this comes off. Now this is gloss as well, so if it squeezes out, which it probably will do, and we don't wipe it off, it will leave a shiny kind of residue on the page. But that's not a problem, because you can always go back over it again with more white gesso or even clear gesso or matte medium and get rid of that shine. So I'm going to stick that down now onto the front, like so. Alright, I just want to make sure that I've got the bones, enough room to get the bones in. So while we've got that wiggle room, that's perfect. And then are we okay at that side? And we're okay at that side. That's fine, so that's about middle. So now I'll get the bones on. Them bones. Now what I could do is just go over the edges with an emery board, just to get rid of any raised bits. That's fine. If you've got some fine sandpaper, you can just whip over the edge, just smooth off the back. The flatter the better is the key. I'll do on that one. I think sometimes it is actually quicker to use sandpaper rather than an emery board. But I find I've got just a little bit more control with emery board. That should do. Get rid of the snow. And then just grab that gel medium and then just wax them on. Just buttering the back, really. But like I said, don't worry if you get any of it on the front, because you can always A, just wipe it off, and B, just go back over it again later with some matte medium or gesso, clear gesso. Because it does dry completely clear. Oh my God. And then I'll do the same this side. So you'll have to let me know in the comments below whether you like seeing me up in the top corner. Or whether you find it distracting and would rather just concentrate on my hands. I'm not saying I'm going to be up here all the time on every video, just the odd one occasionally. If the technology's there, why not use it? There we go. So you can see it's splodging out, so I'm just going to go around the edge with the brush. Just lift it off. Now a lot of the times I would use a hot glue gun just for speed, really. But because this is a project I'm going to be using quite a lot, then I want to make sure that it's glued and stuck as best it can be. So I'm going to put that away for a second, and I'm just going to add a little bit of heat to this, just as a bit of encouragement. Okay, so I've finished gluing the bones down. I've added the bones down the sides and a few other little embellishments onto the front. Now, because I've used the gloss gel medium, or the super thick slap it on in this case, even though I've used the heat gun on it, nothing's going to fall off, but it still needs some time to set. So I'm going to take a break for an hour, probably. And then I'll come back and then we can start adding on some colour. But I just want to give it that extra time just to kind of grip and hold, because I don't want to start adding paint and find things are flicking off, which is what sometimes happens. Which is why when I'm doing demonstrations like this, normally on YouTube, I would use the hot glue gun because it's instantaneous and you don't have to wait. But for this one, I do want to wait because I am going to be using this quite often. So I'll be back in about an hour, but for you it's only going to be for a few minutes. Okay, so everything's now stable enough, dry enough that it's not going to flick off. So now we can start to add our colour. So I'm going to come back in with the white gesso and I'm going to go over everything using the gesso. So I'm going to try and get it in to as many places, because this is kind of intricate. It's really going to kind of be difficult to make sure that you get everything covered as much as possible. I'm trying not to push too hard when I go onto the smaller items, because even though they're holding with that glue, they're not going to be completely set and dry because it just hasn't been long enough for it to do that. So this is probably going to take quite some time. So I'm just going to carry on going, as you can see me doing here. And it doesn't matter if I go over the edge there a little bit, because we'll be adding colour into the background. But I just want to make sure I've got a coating of gesso over pretty much everything. So where we've got the intricate detailing of that moulding, I just have to make sure I get the bristles right in there and as far down into the bottom as I possibly can, particularly with something like the skull. Because I don't want, well, it wouldn't really make that much difference if some of the original colouring of the skull showed through, because it's that kind of bone colour anyway, that creamy kind of bone colour, as you can see. But I'd rather it was the colour that I chose rather than the colour that it was, if that makes sense. Okay, so I will go away and carry on adding the gesso to these items, and then I'll join you again when it's done and it's dry. Okay, so the gesso's pretty much dried now, and I'm hoping that the camera is picking up the detail on that and it's not too bright. I've got the auto exposure on, so it should be correct. So these are the colours that I've chosen for my palette for this thing. So we've got black and white, those two. I've got slate grey, but I've got two warmer colours as well. So this is dark chocolate and true ochre. So the true ochre is going to be used for highlights along with the white. But the main three dark colours I want to use are going to be black, brown and the grey. The grey obviously is going to be kept in reserve for some of the lighter tones to go in there before I add on the white and the ochre. So these two browns, the black and the browns, are going to be predominantly the two colours that I want. So the trick to do is to, first of all, give them a shake. Is to grab a blob, because they're not particularly massively fluid, is I'm going to go in and just add a load of the brown colour where I kind of want it to really pool specifically. Now I've got to do this really sort of quickly, because I then want to come in and just add some water. It's proper water. Not that one, because it didn't work very well last time I used it, did it? So I'm going to just try and loosen some of this brown up. And as you can see, it starts to pool and starts to run, which is exactly what I want. So add it in some of the darker areas, and it doesn't matter that it's really watery. I'm just going to let it go where it kind of wants to. I've just got to be careful that not everything is completely set just yet. You see where it's running down into all that detail. Add the paint, and then we can always add a little bit of water. That star is moving just slightly. Just see if I can get the water to run out from the eyes a little bit. And then we can add it in elsewhere. Just go around. That's it. It doesn't matter whether it goes onto the bones, drips out, goes everywhere else, because it will be our first coat and it will dry a lot lighter. I just want to make sure I go around, at least touch everything at least once with the brown, just to kind of grungy it, vintagey it up a little bit. And then I'm going to come back in with the black. And just to add some even more detail if I need it. I'm saying the black, I might find that I don't actually need a lot of the black. The brown might actually be sufficient to do what I want. Just want to add a little bit more darkness onto the bones. Just so that it goes into all those little kind of cavities, just to make it look a little bit dirtier. There we go. I'm going to try and heat that off now. Okay, so that's now with the brown. You can see how dirty and grungy it looks. So I just want to add a little bit of the grey. I think the black may just be a little bit too much. So use the same paintbrush again. I don't mind if there's a bit of contamination in it. A little bit of brown. I'm going to start adding in some grey tones as well. There are some areas that have still got water in, so that's fine. And that star does not want to set at all, does it? Again, just get some of that water in there. Just get it to mix a little bit. And if I think that it's going a bit too light, just add a little bit more of the brown in, but this time just lighter shades, that's it. And yes, it does look like mud, which is fine. That's alright by me. Okay, so again, let's get it dried off. Okay, so that's the grey added to it. So you can see now how it's kind of warmed with those browns underneath. Still kind of looks old and grungy. I want to warm it up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an acrylic spritzer just by using that ochre paint. So I've got my little bottle and I'm just going to squirt some into the bottle. I'm not going to use a huge amount because it's only going to be used for a small bit on the cover, and then I'll add just enough water. That's probably too much actually. I'm probably going to end up making a bigger one. There we are. If I don't use it, I don't use it. Right, and then just give it a shake. That noise isn't me if you can hear that. That's Ian downstairs in the garage, in his workshop. Okay, so just shake up that spritzer, as you can see. Now if you want to, you can darken it down if it's going to be too bright for you, but don't remember it will dry lighter anyway. So I'm just adding a little bit of the brown in just to warm it up again. That's more like it. You could add a little bit of black if you wanted, or even some of the grey. So now I'm just going to just get it working. Here we are. And I'm going to add some of that colour around. This time not being too bothered about whether it goes towards the edges of the project, that's okay. Right, and then let's just add some water. So it starts to break up, starts to move on its own, it starts to get a life of its own, which just like that. Again, now we need to dry it off. Okay, so while that front is finishing off drying, I'm conscious that I haven't done anything to the back. So I've got this. This is one of my really older stencils. It's the Steampunk Skull stencil, which is still available on my website if you're interested. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay it over the top. I've got some texture paste, like so, and I'm going to, I don't want to get in the way of the front cover, so I'm going to just splodge some down and just gently scrape over. Because it is kind of an intricate shape, I've got a lump in it there, look. Have a bit more, just to hold that in place. Drop some down. Just bring it across. I don't mind if there's a few gaps in it in certain areas. Bring it across. A little bit more. Just butter it across. There we go. That'll do. I think I'm happy with that, and I'll just pull that off. Ooh, there we go. That will do nicely, I think. Right, so I need to go and wash the stencil and my spatula. I'll leave that to dry, and then I'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, so that's pretty much dry as it is now, and that's almost finished drying. Now the residual heat from the actual resin after I'd heated it up has helped it to dry naturally, which I think looks absolutely great, but this looks too stark. Obviously it's not in keeping with the front. So what I'm going to do is just going to grab the gesso, the white gesso, like we did do before. Just grab brush, and then I'm just going to go over the whole thing. Doesn't matter if it just catches a little bit. There we go. The texture paste itself will grab any colour that you add onto it. So that's pretty much going to look. Mr. Bentley is either wanting to go for a wee or he wants to get back into bed. But since he's not been out for a wee for a while, I'd best go and check on him. Right, I'll go and check on him while that's drying, and then I will be back. Okay, so he wanted neither. He just wanted to play. Fair enough. Right, so I'm going to do a quick brown wash. So I've got a little bit of brown paint. Add some water. Just grab that and then just dirty it up a little bit, just like we did with the front. And then, seeing as we've still got that ochre, I'm going to spit some of that onto it as well. Bit of water, let it cool, let it run a little bit, maybe add a bit more brown, just to grunge it up a bit, in with that water. That's it. So it's not just all ochre. Okay, let's get that dried off. Okay, so the back is now dry and kind of mirrors the front now, so that's fine. So what I want to do, just take some of the white acrylic, now that everything on the front is pretty much dry, and I've got a couple of brushes. And I'm just going to just give everything a little bit of a dry brushed highlight. And all the detail should just start to pop. This star at the bottom really doesn't want to set. I can tell you that for nothing. It may need overnight, but that's fine. Once I've done this, then I can afford to leave it overnight. Of course, the paint shouldn't react to the other colours, but it will. It shouldn't, but it will. That much I am certain. And we'll possibly just dull down a little bit. Okay, so while that's drying there, I'm just going to attempt just to do a little bit of dry brush highlighting also on the back, but not a huge amount because I don't think it really needs it. But again, it's one of those things, it shouldn't pick up any of the colour because it's supposed to be acrylic paint, which is permanent when dry, but in my experience it does. But that's okay, don't mind it. As long as the skull looks alright. That's the main. Which I think it does. And everything else around it is fine. It all kind of sticks out and stands out in its own way, but not hugely. And the good thing about this is you can always go back and just add just that little bit more, just to make it pop. Or if there's anything in particular you want to make pop. But leave it till it dries. And then go back and add just that touch more. Okay, I think that's it. I'm done. So, I don't really need to leave it to dry because with it being dry brushing, it's already dry. So there we go. So that is going to be the front and the back once I've managed to get them positioned back into, that's it. Okay, so it's the front and the back of my new 6x6 journal, which has craft card inside. I will paint the inside front covers at a later date, but for the time being, I think I've been at this long enough. I need to also loosen up those holes a bit, but I'm happy with the way that that journal cover has turned out. And of course, because I'm only going to be working on the fronts of the journal, that's in the front pages, then it's not a problem. The fact that that's kind of bulky, because I'm only going to be working on this side. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me create the front of that journal today. If you have, please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking that button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.